Wow. Griff, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's bring in Arkansas GOP Senator Tom Cotton, member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. So speak to that, if you would. We've got this internal email from our Fox affiliate saying potentially troops could stay on Capitol Hill until the fall. There's a wall that's been erected around the Capitol. What do you know about the persistent threat that would justify all of this?
Hey, Pete, it's good to be on with you. It is time to send the troops home. Look, there are too many troops left in Washington. I'm not aware of any threat to justify a continued presence today around the Capitol, much less into the fall. I think Nancy Pelosi will have a lot of questions to answer about what she knew leading up to the riot on January 6th. There was a clear failure by the security leaders on Capitol Hill to prepare for January 6th. The officers of the Capitol Police performed bravely, but they're right to have no confidence in their leadership. That doesn't mean, though, that we should turn the Capitol into an armed fortress or camp for thousands of soldiers. It means we should use common sense and assess the threats that we face and respond accordingly. That big anti-riot fence with razor wire around the Capitol, it went up overnight after January 6th. If, for instance, Joe Biden comes to the Capitol and gives a joint session speech in the next few weeks, as new presidents tend to do, obviously there'll be an increased security posture at that time. But Congress isn't even in session this week, yet we have thousands of troops guarding the Capitol where congressmen and senators and their staff work at a time when the security threats simply do not justify it, at least to my knowledge. If they do, Nancy Pelosi needs to come forth and explain why they do.
Indeed. I think they're going to have a meeting later this week to figure out how they go forward. We'll keep people posted on that. Meanwhile, Senator, the Sierra Club wants the president's wall, his border wall, to come down. They said, in part, the wall itself is an immoral monument to settler colonial destruction. This most recent executive order should be a critical first step in stopping and eventually dismantling this immoral wall and the connected systems of border militarization. I just did a Google search on problems at our southern wall, and I saw a couple of stories that were talking about how migrants are falling off the wall, trying to scale the wall, trying to come into the United States, and are being injured, and then are being taken, being sent back to Mexico rather than hospitals here in the United States. That's the main headline I could find from the wall today.
Steve, the simple fact is, as everyone knows, walls work. In fact, Nancy Pelosi erected a wall around the people's capital and has one up to this day, even though the security threat doesn't justify it. Obviously, the threat at our southern border has long justified a border wall. That's one reason why the border is now more secure than it was 4 years ago, because the Trump administration built lots of new walls or upgraded lots of wall. Unfortunately, the Biden administration has stopped that construction, but to tear down a wall that currently exists that is stopping border crossings would be the height of insanity. Unfortunately, it's just of a piece with Joe Biden's immigration policy. I mean, we had an agreement with Mexico to keep migrants who showed up at our border in Mexico while they pursued their asylum claims, which almost always fail, just as a matter of statistical reality. They're sitting, waiting in Mexico. Yet what is Joe Biden doing? He went and sought them out and invited them to come back to the border, invited them into the country, and is going to let them go for months or even years into the middle of the country while they wait for their hearing, again, which they are almost certain to lose, and I bet they won't be going home after they lose it.
Well, China is still refusing to release any data about the origins of the coronavirus. The WHO is not helping. But the New York Times is actually calling attention to this as well, surprisingly. This is the headline. On WHO trip, China refused to hand over important data. Is President Biden doing enough when it comes to China?
No, they're not, and they need to demand answers from the Chinese Communist Party and from the Wuhan Institute of Virology and make a point that the WHO's so-called investigation was deeply conflicted. I don't know, I think they went into the Institute of Virology in Wuhan and had a cup of coffee and a couple of donuts, and they were told nothing to see here, and they're like, okay, we're going to leave. Not to say nothing of the fact that some of the members of that investigation, of that investigative commission, have conflicts of interest. They have ties to that institute and the scientists that work there. China needs to be forthright. They need to finally provide answers about the beginning of this pandemic that they unleashed on the world.
Senator, we'll go lightning round here on another topic. Gallup had a poll out recently that showed that 63% of Republicans would be open to a third party, kind of a reflection of a referendum of how important Donald Trump has been to the party there. Lindsey Graham suggested it's a MAGA or Trump plus party going forward. What's the president's role in the Republican Party going forward, in your view?
Well, Pete, the Republican Party is and always has been the home of conservatives in this country. And if we want to have conservative center-right government, we need a strong Republican Party that welcomes all comers. Over the last 4 years, we had millions of more people join our party, oftentimes more rural, working-class voters, and we welcome them. And that's how Donald Trump increased his vote by 11 million votes from 2016 to 2020. But obviously, we lost some voters as well over the last 4 years, and we need to win those voters back. And the way we do that is by standing up for America, protecting our heritage, making sure that every American has a chance to get ahead and succeed and keep more of their money and have their kids educated well and is safe on their streets. That's the way we'll get back to the majority status in the Congress and the way we'll win back the White House in 4 years.
All right. Senator Tom Cotton, sir, thank you very much for joining us today from the D.C. area.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you all.